Hello, everybody, and we are live. Welcome to my UFC Rio Rancho recap. This is not my live Q&A. This will be just a recap. I will tackle questions, though, but I do want to keep them about UFC Rio Rancho because that's what this video is about. But I will answer some other questions. I'll be doing later in the week, this upcoming week. I don't know what day, but I'll be doing a live Q&A, so make sure you tune into that. My name is Danny Segura. I'm from MMAJunkie.com. Welcome to my UFC Rio Rancho recap. And let's get this thing started. If you guys are new, how I do this is I ask you guys to submit some questions via Twitter, and I tackle those first, and then I take things over to the live chat where I see you guys have already submitted some questions, and then I tackle those there. But just a heads up, since the live chat ones, I can't really queue them up as well as I can with Twitter. I tackle those first, so those get priority. So hope you guys had a great weekend. We didn't have the best weekend for MMA, but I think it was a decent card. I mean, I was fairly entertained. There was some good fights that happened last night. Some results that maybe aren't extremely important, but nonetheless do have some consequences in the UFC world. So we'll be discussing that. I do know that most of the questions actually on Twitter are not about last night's fights, only a couple. So let's just start with the questions that are related to Rio Rancho, and then I'll kind of leave the not random stuff, but the other stuff that's unrelated to the event for last. All right. So I won't tackle these chronologically. So sorry for that. Again, if you're tuning in, I appreciate your support. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for reminders whenever I go live and all that good stuff. You already know the drill. So let's get this thing going. All right. Jason on Twitter asks, Jon Jones, potential next opponents, Reyes, Jan, Israel, Stipe. Assume they're all right possibilities within this year, this 2020 year. Who do you have winning in each matchup? I assume in each case the fight is booked. Assume in each case the fight is booked for spring/summer 2020. Assume all fighters are at full health. So that's a tough one. Those are tough. I mean, so let's start with the order. So the first one's Reyes. I would go with Jon Jones. I went with Jon Jones the first one. As you guys know, with my previous videos, I've been pretty open about how I thought Reyes did enough to win, and I thought he did. He had a convincing case. I thought he won the first 3 rounds pretty clearly, but I did say, hey, it's not the worst decision in the world because Jon Jones did have clearly the last 2, and the third one was pretty competitive. So there is some room there for a decision for Jon, right? But I think the biggest controversy was the fact that 49-46 card. I'm not gonna go over it again, as you guys know. I mean, everyone's talked about this at extent, So, but anyways, Jones has always done better in rematches. We saw how close the first fight with Gustafsson was. We saw how not so close was the second one was. Same thing for Daniel Cormier. Let me turn off here so you don't get those weird noises. It's actually telling me that I am live. Funny. We saw what he did to Daniel Cormier the first time they fought. They went to a decision. I mean, it was clear that Jon Jones won, but it was pretty competitive. The second time out, Jon Jones finished him. It got turned into a no contest later due to the fact that he tested from some prohibited substances. But nonetheless, just from the action standpoint, he knocked out Cormier. And overall, just in rematches, he tends to do better. So I don't have any reason to believe why, he would do worse. So I think with a camp where, he studies what he did wrong, what Reyes did well, I would assume that he would have an edge and probably win that fight. But I'm still curious to see it because Reyes did test him and he deserves a rematch just because of the nature of the first fight. But I would probably side with Jon Jones, but you never know. I mean, Jon Jones does seem to be maybe not slowing down, but people seem to be catching up to him. Either or, they're there, right? Things are starting to get a little bit even, a lot more even than before. Against Jan Blachowicz, who picked up a pretty big win over Corey Anderson last night at UFC Rio Rancho, which there's no questions about that, but I will get into it right after this question because I do feel like I want to address it, and there's a few thoughts that I have on that. I would still pick Jones. Now with Israel and Stipe, that gets a little interesting. Against Israel, I probably still favor Jones, but man, if Israel has some good time to kind of maybe bulk up a little bit and get ready for the physical challenges that come up at 205 pounds, I think Israel can give him a good run for his money. I mean, striking wise, I think Israel could probably beat him. What gets interesting is the wrestling. I think Jon Jones' wrestling is superior, but we know Adesanya has good takedown defense. However, Jones is a lot bigger, and some of the guys that have stuffed his takedowns have just used brute force, obviously with some defense and knowledge as well. But they you really gotta match on fire with fire. That's just how wrestling works. And Israel Adesanya is not a big middleweight. So yeah, that's a tough one, but I'd probably still pick Jones. But out of Reyes, Jan, and Israel, I'd probably feel more comfortable, or I think the fight would be closer with Israel than the other two. And then Stipe, man, that's a tough one. 5 rounds. Can Jones knock out Stipe? Stipe will probably still be hanging in there. And then over 5 rounds, I mean, Jones will be the lighter and quicker guy, so that could be an advantage. But still, Stipe is not a slow heavyweight. He still carries power. I mean, and Jon Jones has been hit in his last few fights. So there's a big difference if the UFC heavyweight champion hits you than a Thiago Santos, who hits still pretty hard, or a Dominic Reyes. I mean, that's that big boy power. So that gets tough. That gets tough. Shit, I probably, just because this question's being asked right now, I'd probably go with Stipe, to be honest. But I don't know. That's a tough one. Great question, by the way, and all great fights. I'd love to see all of them. Some more than others, but yeah, they're all great fights that could very well be in Jon Jones' future in 2020 for sure. Especially the ones at light heavyweight. Reyes and Jan, I think either of those is very likely. So with that being said, let's talk about what happened in the main event of UFC Rio Rancho. Man, poor Corey Anderson, right? He had some really nice momentum going, and that just all went away. Not exactly all, because if you get a win, you'd be still, he was on a 5-fight win streak, so you'd be 6-1 in your last 7, which is still pretty good. It's not like you just delete it and it's gone for life. But still, I mean, I think that fight, if he would have won that fight, I think he would have gotten a title shot. I mean, Jon Jones was right there in the crowd. You saw, Jan is not like the biggest hype man or trash talker. He did his best to kind of get some reaction out of Jon Jones and ask for his shot. And yeah, it was good. But we've seen how Corey Anderson behaved in his last bouts. He would have gotten mental if he would have picked up a victory, and he would have, I don't know if he would have hopped the fence and gotten in Jon Jones' face or what, but he would have built I think a better case maybe than Jan to get the next shot. And yeah, and then Jan is on a 3-fight win streak now, 4, or was it 3? Let me check that just to not spread any misinformation here. Jan Blachowicz. Now he's in a 3-fight win streak, so he was on a 2-fight win streak before. Corey Anderson would have been at 6. So, yeah, would have been at 5. I'm sorry. Still, obviously, a much more impressive run. So, yeah, I mean, I felt like that was the fight for him to win and really get the next shot. And, obviously, that's no longer the case. So I feel bad for him. I see a lot of people bagging on him and it kind of shitting on him on Twitter. But it's saying, and even Jon Jones said this in, you can check this out. MMA Junkie was covering the event. So we had a bunch of video content, including, a scrum with Jon Jones himself, talking about what's next and all that. So, and that was actually gave a decent amount of clarity. He said he was open to the Reyes rematch, but also impressed with Jan. I kind of got the feel from that scrum that he's more interested in the Reyes rematch. So that just seems to be the bigger fight. Also, as I said, he tends to do a lot better in rematches. So it seems to be a good opportunity for him to take. Anyhow, what was I saying? I completely forgot. Oh, yeah. I see a lot of people kind of shitting on Corey Anderson, saying, and Jon Jones was saying this. That's why I mentioned the scrum. They were saying, like, he should have focused on Jan. Like, he was overlooking him. He was just focusing on Jon Jones. He's a shit fighter. He's not good. What else? Too much trash talk. Jon Jones said he ate some humble pie, but dude, the dude, if the dude doesn't do that, if the dude just rises quietly through the ranks, he probably doesn't get that fight. Somebody else will, somebody else that does open his mouth. I don't think Corey Anderson was underestimating Jan Blachowicz. I just think, he was really trying to make the best case for him to get the next shot, and that means talking a lot of shit in the outside and doing what he was doing. And he is a good fighter, man. You can't put 4 wins together in the UFC and be a top 5 guy and be a shit fighter. Like, there's no way. Is he the best fighter in the world? No. But by no means is Corey Anderson a poor fighter. And I do think he's getting better, and he's just 30 years old. Usually that's about the prime, but like a light heavyweight is a little different. I think, it's not exactly heavyweight where you can be, 35, 36 and be prime. But I do think he's just going to keep getting better. And will he make another run for the title and actually get a title shot? I don't know if that's in him. But it's certainly not out of question. I mean, it's definitely a possibility. And yeah, he just ran into the Polish power, right? And yeah, he got a taste of that and didn't end well for him. But as far as Yan, I don't know how likely a title shot will be for him against Jon Jones. I mean, I think he did his best. I do obviously think he has a case, but a 3-fight run with 2 wins over middleweights, I don't know if that gets you. I don't know if that gets you a title shot, especially considering how many people thought Reyes won that fight, and all of a sudden there's a little bit of bad blood there, or more bad blood than originally going into the fight. There was. So I don't know, but certainly things are interesting at light heavyweight. I'm curious to see how all that plays out, but I do think whatever's next is going to be at 205 pounds for Jon Jones. I don't think heavyweight is an option for him right this second. And, Adesanya has his hands full against Romero. By the way, some news, or some personal news. I'll be covering UFC 248. I just booked my trip to Vegas, my flight, and my hotel stay. So I'll be there for MMA Junkie. So that should be fun. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I haven't been to Vegas in a long time. Last time I was in Vegas, I was covering UFC 156. That's when Aldo fought Frankie Edgar, I think, for the first time. That's when Bigfoot Silva knocked out Alistair Overeem. Who else fought on that card? I believe Tyron Woodley fought on that card. He was like down in the prelims, maybe. But yeah, it's been a while. So, and all, so yeah, I'm excited for the trip. It's gonna be fun. Anyhow, let's go back to the questions. I just want to get that out of the way because I thought it was important. I mean, it's a main event fight, right? A lot of implications at light heavyweight. I know you guys want to ask about other things, but I do want to tackle that. So now, Terrence is back. Leverett. Apparently, I'm pronouncing his name right, so it's a good win. He made sure to let me know last Q&A that I did. Do you agree with Casey that Sanchez fight should have been ruled a no contest at best, not a DQ? I think Diego was trying to save his job. That's why he took the DQ. I believe he would have been cut if he lose again. Anthony Smith didn't steal a win. He shouldn't have either. So that's also been a big topic of conversation leaving the event on Twitter. For those that didn't watch, basically what happened was Diego Sanchez fought Michel Pereira, and that fight ended in a DQ. Michel Pereira basically was winning the fight pretty comfortably in the first and second round, basically just running down Diego Sanchez the entire fight and landing a lot of body kicks and just pressuring him. Diego Sanchez didn't really have, I mean, he had a couple cool, what it was called, the thunder kicks, where, you do a front flip and you try to hit your opponent with the heel, the one that Ross Pearson got knocked out with, but I don't think they landed all that well. And and then going into the third, it looked just as dominant for Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira gets him in a Muay Thai clinch, just starts dropping knees, hurts Diego, it seemed. Diego kind of falls back on his knees against the cage, and Michel Pereira keeps going with the knees, which is illegal laugh, and just threw one right to the dome and cut him open, and Sanchez started bleeding. Obviously the referee stepped in, told him, hey, look, you can't do this. The fight was stopped. Sanchez clearly took a hit because he was bleeding from his forehead, like it was a hard hit, but he might have been maybe a little rocked. I mean, you're eating a knee from Michel Pereira. That dude's super athletic. but he wasn't. It wasn't like the Brock Weaver, which was another illegal knee against Casula Vargas, which happened earlier in the fight, where he was actually out. Like you can see him go out, and then you can read his lips telling the referee what happened. Like he was totally out. No, Sanchez stood up and he seemed to be all right. But again, I can't tell because I'm not Diego Sanchez, only he knows. But he seemed to be all right to continue. And basically, he did ask the referee, hey, is this going to be a DQ if the referee's like, don't worry about it. Can you continue? Yes or no? And he's like, yep, he landed an illegal hit. I can't see out of my eyes. I can't see. Yeah, it was an illegal hit. I can't continue. And the fight was declared a disqualification, and Diego Sanchez won via DQ. So a lot to take in there. Shit. It's such a tough position because I also admire what Anthony Smith did. Like that takes, that's a lot of what's the word? For lack of a better word, balls, right? Or courage or not even transparency. I don't even know what to call it, but definitely something to admire, the fact that, he had an option to possibly declare it a DQ, or we don't know if it would have gone to a no contest. And it wouldn't have been a loss on his record, but he was like, I'm fine and I can continue. And that was also clearly an illegal knee that he took flush. Look, I'm not going to blame Diego for this. He looked okay to continue, but I'll say this: for his last UFC bout, which was, I believe, at UFC 239, right? Let's check that real quick. Yes, so he last fought at UFC 239 in July. That's when he lost a decision to Michael Chiesa. He earned, this is on MMAJunkie.com, he earned $103,000. And he also had an $103,000 bonus if he were to win the fight. Now, that was his last fight on his contract. That's why he didn't fight in so long. And people were wondering, is the UFC going to re-sign Diego Sanchez? He's obviously a big name, but taking a lot of damage. Whereas, mentally, all this and that. And then he has the stuff with the coach, which we can address if you want. You can drop that in the live chat, and I can actually, for once, break the rule and hop over to a live chat real quick before I keep going with Twitter. But so anyways, he renegotiated a new contract. I don't know if he's getting more money or less money than what we saw for his last fight. So let's just assume for this question, it's around the same. So let's say, $100,000. So he's literally being asked, because he knows what's going to happen, right? That's why he asked. He's literally going to ask, can you continue or not? He's losing the fight, clearly. Doesn't look like he's actually, it's not like the tides were turning or anything. If you were to say no, that's losing on $100,000. That's a shitload of money. That's a lot of money. The dude hasn't fought all the way since July. He has kids, man. He has a life. So, and the fact is, Michel Pereira, he should be aware of the rules, and he landed an illegal shot. So I'm not excusing Diego Sanchez, but I understand why he would do that. That's a lot of money to be, on the line, and it's basically a yes or no question. And at the end of the day, yes, the public might view you a certain way, and you might get criticized. But look, you got $100,000 in your pocket, so I'm not gonna bag on Diego for that. But yeah. That was interesting. And as far as the first part of the question, which was, fight should have been ruled a no contest at best, not a DQ. I don't know if it was because I believe they were under the old rules, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if that changes with the new rules, because we saw that in the Eddie Alvarez-Poirier fight, when Poirier landed an illegal knee right on Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez wasn't able to continue. Was that the case, or was it vice versa? Eddie Alvarez landed the illegal knee. It was declared a no contest, and it was a very similar situation. So I don't know what happened there, if it's up to the ref's discretion, and if so, what are the details, or what are the factors that might push you to either choose a DQ or a no contest. If I find a ref, I'll do my best. I'll ask them exactly that and figure out what's like the official answer, right? And whenever I do another one of these, hopefully I have an answer. But I'm not, I'm not an official, so I don't know. But that is a great question. It should have been the fair thing. I think it should have been a DQ. I mean, a no contest. Look, you don't take an L, but you're also not going to take a win, because you were losing. So you probably don't deserve to win, right? But it was an illegal shot, so let's just make it a no contest. It's not neither a win-win for anybody, right? It's not a win-lose for anybody. It's just a no contest. But yeah, great question. And let me hop over to the live chat real quick to see if anybody wants to talk about the coach. I mean, it's kind of silly, some of the stuff with the coach. Let's see. Let me pop the chat here so I'm not looking at two screens at once. Coast MMA says, yeah, fire time. Yeah, man. Fire talk time. It's crazy, man. And I'm all for trying new things and kind of, MMA is already a weird sport. So, try crazy things. And Diego has always been cutting edge, like trying weird shit. And in some ways, he was well ahead of his time in the early days when people thought he was really weird. Like, he would do a lot of yoga and meditation and stretch a lot. I remember when I was a fan, I went to what was that store that sold like music and movies? Was it FYI or something like that? FYE or FI or something like that? I forgot. But I went to the mall. That's where I would get all my Pride and UFC videos before the internet was big and you can find stuff. And yeah, I bought the DVD of the whole first season of The Ultimate Fighter, and Diego Sanchez was in the cover, right in the middle, sitting down with everyone around him, and he was doing a full split. And nowadays, you see a lot of fighters doing yoga and really sort of, that's very normal now. But at the time, I remember it being, he was nuts, right? He was this crazy guy. So I'll say that to his defense. But clearly, his coach, especially a one-man corner, doesn't seem equipped to be honest. I mean, I'm just giving my honest opinion. He doesn't seem equipped to give him possibly a smart strategy or good technical advice to win a fight. I mean, up on MMAJunkie.com right now, you can go, and after this live chat, you can go check out the audio. I mean, I know, and actually, we posted something on Instagram, like a snippet on social, and Diego Sanchez commented on it and kind of went on a rant. I didn't read it all, but he did say, like, hey, that's our code. That's for us to understand, not you. So I also get that about code. But shit, like, he wasn't doing, if so, then he wasn't doing anything of it, because the first round looked just as bad for him as the second. And there didn't seem like a game plan. Even Trevor Whitman, who went on the broadcast, was kind of wondering that. He used to train Diego or has known Diego for a long time. I mean, he's like, I don't know what he's doing. I really don't know. And yeah, he just didn't seem there didn't seem to be a clear strategy. And obviously, we saw in Michel Pereira's last fight, if you can grapple him, if you can turn that into a grind match, you can actually exhaust the guy and beat him in that sense, even if you are a smaller guy. And Diego definitely had the tools to do that, but he didn't. So for me, it's kind of frustrating to watch because, yes, I understand that Diego has taken a lot of damage in his career, and that's a concern. And he's been fighting for a really long time, and I share those concerns as well. But I do think he is a little bit different than other guys that we've seen kind of along the same line, say like a BJ Penn. Like, Diego Sanchez is in shape. He's in tip-top shape. His cardio is ridiculous. He looks strong. He looks well prepared going into a fight, right? He's put in the work. On top of that, the dude still has the dog in him of the 18-year-old self or 20-year-old self. Like, he's still out there, not really taking a shot and just folding like many, older fighters do when they're done and they're just really collecting a paycheck. Like, the dude has the heart. The dude has the intensity, the determination, and physically he's there to perform as a world-class fighter. However, skills-wise, that's when I think there's issues with his corner and his coach. And look, if Diego wants to continue fighting, I definitely don't want to see him against any like knockout artists or anything like that. But I do think it's fun if he gets matched up against BJJ guys, like say like a Mickey Gall. Who was the other? I think he was some British guy, the guy that kissed his nose or something like that. What's his name? Craig White. Like, there's certain guys, even the Michael Chiesa bout, that was a ground fight. But I believe that was with the current coach that he is with now, who, again, I don't know how much technical advice he's actually getting. But if you're gonna fight, see the Marcin Held, the Jim Millers, those are fun, man. If you're gonna fight grapplers, I think that is the safe. Again, it's not a safe way, but it's the safest way you can compete. Look, you're still in shape. You're still you're taking this seriously. You're not going out there and making a fool of yourself. You clearly can win fights. The guy's 3-1 in his last four. And that one loss came to Michael Chiesa, who's been killing it, and he's ranked 7th in the division. So I don't hate the idea of him continuing fighting. I just think the right matchups for him should be, they should be good matchups for him, and those are all grapplers. And also, I'd love to see him get like some technical advice, a coach that can actually coach him, because he doesn't seem to be too sharp with on that aspect. But again, he's got the other two: the determination and the will to fight in there, get in there, and put on a fight, and the physicality. So those are two very important things. He's just missing that one. So it's kind of frustrating to watch, because you know he can do better. I think a trained Diego Sanchez could probably beat Michel Pereira, to be honest. So yeah. But again, what do I know, right? Yeah. All right. So yeah. So that was thank you, Terrence, for the question, and thank you, Costa MMA, for allowing me to elaborate on his coach. But yeah, those are my thoughts on that. And yeah, not hating on him for saying he can't continue. He took an illegal shot, and you're probably going to take $100,000 more. That's why people are against bonuses. Ariel Helwani has talked about that a long time, how he hates bonuses, win bonuses. I mean, look, if he knows he's getting a flat rate, walking out of that fight is the same as continuing to fight for the remaining 4 minutes. So I would bet that you'd be more likely to continue fighting if you're getting a flat rate. That's just my take. All right. Anyhow, fan of Mr. Stationary, whatever that is, on Twitter, ask if you could be a fighter in any weight class, which one would you want and why? First of all, I wouldn't want to be a fighter. I don't have what it takes to be a fighter. And I guess I would choose flyweight. They seem to take the least amount of damage. I mean, you don't see as many knockouts, right? They do get hit a lot more often, right? So I guess that could be an issue. But I feel like, in a way, they, I don't know, less CT, but I may be wrong. Because yeah, heavyweight, you take bigger shots, but it's clear that at flyweight, there's, you take a lot more. And there's definitely been research about, for example, the jab. How much trauma can a jab cause? The jab itself on its own, it doesn't cause a lot of trauma, but over time and repeatedly, it can maybe just cause as much, if not more, than a big shot. But yeah, I would go with flyweight. Yeah. And if I were a really, really good fighter, I'd go 155, because I feel like that's where the money's at, and fight Conor McGregor. Red panty night, right? But again, I'm no fighter, and I would never want to fight anybody, especially Conor McGregor. Anyways, Jason. Oh no, I already read that one. Tori's Lizard asks, not MMA related, but what was your favorite thing about living in Bogota? So I lived in Bogota till I was like 12. So I was a kid. I'd love to live there as an adult, but I'm here in New York City, which I also like. But it is a little nostalgic. Like, oh man, what would life would have been if I would have stayed in Colombia, or going back would be fun too. Being able to see like my cousins, my uncles, my aunts, my grandparents. That's really nice. And just living in Bogota is sick. One thing I love about Bogota is, one's the view. Anywhere you look, it's just green mountains everywhere. The view's amazing, which is cool. Here in New York, everything's flat unless you get out of the city. I mean, you can get some mountains. And then I grew up also in Florida, so very flat as well. Yeah, the view's amazing. The food is amazing. There's no such thing, and this is just in Colombia overall. There's no such thing as organic. Everything's organic. Like, how you go to a supermarket here and they have like an organic section, and like you have to pay more for it. And I can see a difference. Like when I buy the regular eggs and I crack them, they're all yellow and kind of weird looking. And then when I buy the grass-fed organic eggs, like they're orange. That's everything in Colombia. In Colombia, there's no everything is like the milk tastes different, eggs taste different, fruit tastes differently. Just the food in general just tastes way better because it's a lot more it's organic. Like it's all grass fed. They don't have cows where they're being injected with crazy hormones or anything like that. So it's something noticeable. Like you go to a restaurant or you just go grocery shopping and like the food tastes differently, and it's crazy. It's insane. And that goes, I mean, I've been to other places where it's like the same case. Like in Barcelona, when my cousin lives there, I went to visit her like 2 years ago, and it's very much the same. Very very organic. I don't know if it's only a US thing. I'm sure other countries, that mass produced food, their food is kind of like that, full of hormones and stuff. But um, yeah, and also just the people. The people are really nice, and it's a great country, and it's very safe nowadays. It gets a bad rep, but Colombia is a really good country, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, um, for 2020, it might be number one tourist spot in the world, if I'm not mistaken. If not like top three, it's definitely up there. So yeah, you go and there's a lot of tourists, and nothing happens to them. They're fine. Obviously don't be an idiot and be walking around bad areas and showing off your Rolex and acting like a dumbass, right? We call that in Colombia dar papaya. So giving papaya. Like if you're giving papaya, it means you're being heated. You're being, um, so say like you're gonna go to a rough area, you go, hey, mucho cuidado, like be careful, no de papaya, like make sure you stay composed, right? Don't be an idiot. But yeah, I love Bogota. Yeah, the view, the food, the people. It's a great city. Awesome. I believe that does it for the Twitter questions. So we're halfway in. So we're gonna do another 30 minutes of the live chat itself. For those that are new to this, I run about an hour, go maybe a few minutes over, but usually about an hour. That's give or take the limit that I put myself. Now, if there's no questions, I'm more than okay with calling it quits early. But for the most part, there is. So we'll go an hour. Let me just check real quick here on your other threads just to make sure that there's no other questions that I missed on Twitter. Because as I said, those get priority, And last week they were weak. This week fairly strong. So yeah. All right. Yeah, that was it. Okay. The Texecutioner 91. I did miss one. True or false? Edmund Sebastian will be champ in the end of 2021. Ooh. 2021. He's fighting Derek Brunson, right? I would say false. But that's a good one. I'll say this. Title contention and getting a title shot, 100%. I think that man will fight for the title before, within 2021 for sure. Maybe even before. He's doing quite well. And the champion just happens to like a busy schedule. So good for him, Good news for him. All right, yeah, that was it for the Twitter question. So I'm going to take things over to the live chat. Hopefully things are not too crazy there. I believe some people have logged in questions early, so that's good. All right, Apple Bear. Top 5 pound for pound fighters today. Jon Jones. Oh, man, I mean, active fighters. I'm assuming is active fighters, right? I would say Jon Jones. Number one. Number two is probably between Demetrius Johnson or, and this is counting male. I think female should be separate. Because that just makes it a lot harder, I would say, yeah, Jon Jones. I think second. I don't know. Either Demetrius Johnson or Khabib. Either or will take 2 and 3. Then after, you can't deny what Henry Cejudo has done. I'd like to see more though. I think he really caught my eye as far as like pound for pound talk when he beat Demetrius Johnson, and since he's fought how many times? He beat TJ Dillashaw, which is obviously a huge achievement. and then he beat Marlon Moraes, right? I believe those are his only two fights since the DJ win. That's right. Yeah. So obviously huge wins. He's on the right track to cement himself as a pound for pound great. But I'd like to see more. Obviously, unfortunately, he's out due to injury. Hopefully, coming back soon. He could definitely be up there, even surpass DJ because he has a recent win over DJ. But that was a close fight. It was a split decision. DJ had beat him before, finished him before, and DJ has a stupid record. I mean, that's his only blemish, and Triple C is a really good fighter, and he's been destroying at one. So a lot of people kind of overlook DJ just because he's not fighting in North America and over in Asia, but the guy's still one of the very best fighters today. So I would still consider him in my ranking. Yeah. So that'd be four. And my fifth would be it's got to be someone that's proven. That's a tough one. Holloway just lost his belt. That's a tough one. I don't know. This conversation's so hard. I'll leave that as that. Valentina Gomas. Thoughts on Jan's octagon call out of Jon? Yeah, it wasn't the best. Like, it didn't get me like super fired up for a fight. But look, I've seen guys, just be like, whatever the UFC wants to give me, or he got the mic, said what he needed to say, called them out. Jon Jones obviously responded. There was some reception there. And Jan is just, first of all, English is his second language. That's just not his, that's not his thing. He's never been known to be a trash talker. So I didn't expect it to be anything more than that. So I think it was fine. I think it was good. It certainly wasn't the best promo, right? But he did what he needed to do. So yeah. Ja 007. If the judges had scored the knockdown in round one, Jones versus Reyes, would that round be a 10-8 for Reyes? Yeah, probably. But the knockdown came from a body punch. It was like losing balance. But if it would have been clipped and he would have been rocked, plus everything he did in the first, which was probably his most dominant round, it could have been a 10-8. Yeah. A little parched. 1 second. All right. Let's see. Should scoring be as simple as who landed more significant strikes and maybe considered a takedown a significant strike? No, it's much more complex than that. I mean, holding somebody down and controlling them there is something, right? You can land 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 significant strikes, but if one person lands the significant strike where you wobble someone, you drop them, that's obviously worth a lot more than the 5 shots that you took and nothing happened, right? So no, it's not that simple. No, scoring is very difficult. I know we criticize the judges a lot, but it is a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult job, man, and it doesn't pay much. So it's hard to when the job is that hard and it pays and the pay is so little, like it's hard to like ask for more, right? Like if you want better judging, right, you pay more, train more, right, invest more money into it. It's kind of like if you hire someone to do a specific job and it's a very difficult job and you want to pay them shit, you want to pay them $5 an hour. It's hard to expect some world-class, whatever it is that you're paying them for to do, the task, right? Again, nonetheless, no matter what job you're in, you should do your job with the best you can and look to do it, at the best of your abilities, obviously, and you should do the best to have the tools and empowerment to do that job correctly, right? So that's when it gets complicated. But yeah, judging's difficult, man. But it definitely needs to get better. Coast MMA, what up, Danny? What's good, bro? Who should Chris Weidman fight in his return to middleweight? So yeah, for those that don't know, Chris Weidman announced a return to middleweight. Honestly, who? Darren Till, anybody, I don't know. At this point, anyone. He's lost a good amount, so it's not like you got to be really careful with his matchmaking as far as like once guys start winning fights, you want to make sure they get um the proper matchmaking and the proper escalation of opponents and whatnot. But when you're coming off that many losses, also you had gone to light heavyweight and now coming back, I think kind of anybody works, any matchup works. And it kind of depends what you want to do with Chris Weidman. You can give him a tune-up fight and hopes to help him get back to his winning ways and see what he can do. He's obviously a former champion, a big name in the division, so someone you can use promotionally. Or maybe you want to feed him to the wolves and get guys like Darren Till and guys that are making their name like Edmund Shabazian, right? We just talked about him. That's how this sport works, I mean, we just saw John Dodson fight Nathaniel Wood last night. That's what it was. It was, giving Nathaniel Wood a stage. Obviously, Nathaniel Wood has to put in the work. It's not like it's a given, and we saw that. But giving him a stage to, break into the rankings, to, break into the public eye. Obviously, Dodson proved that he is not washed, that he's very much a very skilled fighter, very good fighter, a top, ranked opponent in that division. So, yeah. So I guess it kind of depends what the UFC wants to do with Chris Weidman, but I feel like anything goes, to be honest. Ja keeps asking questions, man, taking over this chat. This would be the Ja live Q&A. I will tackle your questions, but I'm going to tackle a few others just to give everybody a chance, because we do have 19 minutes remaining here on the chat, 18 minutes. So I will go back to these, Ja, but I answered like 3 or 4 in a row. Let's see what other people are throwing out there. What's your take on immediate rematches? That's by Nat Anon. Why is my mouth so dry, man? So immediate rematches, I'm not a fan of them, but I do think there's a place for them in MMA, and I'm about to explain to you what I find that place to be. If the fight is controversial, say like a very bad decision, very very bad judging, I think you should run it back. And also if the fight was exciting, right? Well, not only, but it helps, right? It helps the case to run it back because you want to see exciting stuff naturally, right? Also, when a champion has a very long reign, very very long reign, say like an Anderson Silva, Joanna Jędrzejczyk deserved it, I think. If GSP would have lost his belt, if you have a long reign and you lose your belt and it's not like a wash, it's not like you got dominated for 5 rounds and we clearly saw who the better fighter was, I think you have a case for an immediate rematch. I think you do. Or like a Jose Aldo, that's a good example as well. Now, I still don't like to see him, because it's like you're running it back. You're most likely going to lose again, just because usually I believe there has to be a stat out there, like the fighter who wins the first fight usually wins the second. I think there has to be, it's probably more likely, I would say. So I always like to, have fights build up, go get a few wins, I'm not saying easy opponents, but maybe opponents in, that's not the champion, right? A little bit of a lower caliber opponents, get some momentum and come back and make it a bigger stage, a bigger fight than what it is. I mentioned last time I did a live Q&A, I talked to Javier Mendez, which I hope that interview comes out soon. I talked to him about Tony Ferguson and Khabib. I'm like, yo, you've been around for the game a really long time. Have you seen anything like this? Like, it's been booked, like 4 or 5 times, and each time is just a freak incident. What's good? And he's like, yeah, I've never seen anything like this. But in a way, I'm a little thankful by the way it played out, because this fight is bigger than ever, and it's on the biggest stage that it's ever been. Both guys are on the best points of their career. This fight is bigger than what it would have been any of the other times it was booked. So he's like, maybe it was God. I don't know. But what I do know is that this fight means more and is bigger than it ever did when it was previously booked. And I agree with that. I think that is an accurate assessment. So that's why I'm saying I'm not a fan of immediate rematches. Usually when you let some time in between them, when you let them, cook for a little longer, they tend to be bigger fights. But I do think there's a place, like I said, under those circumstances. I do think we overuse immediate rematches a tad too much in MMA, especially in the UFC. Jay Bite. Hey, Danny, how do you think Barbosa will go or will do? I'm correcting you here. Will do in the featherweight division. Mm, I don't know, but I've seen Barbosa in person. He's a big dude. And at lightweight, he never looked like he was undersized. He never looked like, obviously he had some struggle with wrestling, but I don't think that came down as to being less physical than other guys and getting run over because of that. As we've seen Frankie Edgar, for example, those fights that I would watch with Frankie Edgar that I'd be like, man, he'd be doing so much better if he was fighting someone against his size. With Barbosa, I never really got that feel. It was just, this guy's a better wrestler than he is, But I never thought he would physically, by a lot, get imposed, by somebody else, right? Physically get dominated. So I thought he was just fine at lightweight, but switching weight class is a good way. There's different styles of fighting in a different weight class. There's different matchups you can get, fresh matchups, new faces. So in that way, it can renew your career. And Barbosa has fought everyone at 55. And it is tough for him to get a title shot and to build momentum again, considering the losses that he's had. And also the guys that have beat him are still at the top. It's not like they're gone, right? So in that sense, I do think it's a good move to go to featherweight. However, I wonder if he will be hindered because, he has a good chin, but he has been dropped and knocked out by other guys before. And I can only expect that to diminish at 145 because those guys hit pretty hard and, he's going to be cutting more weight. But again, that's just me assuming, it's clear that 55ers do hit harder and maybe he can cut to 145 and not compromise his chin. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I was a huge skeptic about Jose Aldo moving to 135. You guys remember that? I talked about it extensively. And I honestly didn't think he was going to even make the weight. And he did it. And he looked pretty damn good against Marlon Moraes. I thought he won that fight. I really did. I think I had it scored for him. Definitely he won the first round. I think he won 1 and 3, if I'm not mistaken. Or it might have been 1 and 2. I don't remember. I would have to go back and watch it. So after that experience, I would say this. I was more skeptical about Jose Aldo dropping to 135 than I am of Barbosa dropping to 145. So my take is let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. On paper, it has its pros and it also has its cons. So let's wait and see what happens. I would say this, though, and I think people underestimate this. The type of matchups that you get in divisions change. I asked this to Darren Till at UFC 244 before he fought Kelvin Gastelum. I'm like, are you kind of glad to move to 185 in a way because most of the matchups that you can get at 170, at least the top matchups, there's usually wrestling-based matchups. Like the guys who dominate 170 are usually wrestlers, right? You got the champion Kamaru Usman, a wrestler. You got Colby Covington, a wrestler. Tyron Woodley, no longer champ. Obviously, he's a power puncher too, but uses his wrestling. Who else? So I don't sound crazy here. Let me go through the rankings. There's so many wrestlers at 170. It's stupid. Obviously, there's some strikers as well, but for the most part, it's a bunch of wrestlers. Let's see. Damian Maia, stud grappler. Michael Chiesa, stud grappler. Rafael dos Anjos, stud grappler. So very grappler heavy. Gilbert Burns, right? Obviously, you got guys like Vicente Luque. You got guys like Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards, Stephen Thompson, a few other guys that are strikers. But a lot of wrestlers at 170, especially wrestlers that are having success. Whereas 185, Adesanya, striker. Robert Whittaker, striker. And I'm going down the line of the rankings. Paulo Costa, a striker. Yo Romero, the dude is a wrestler, but for the most part, he strikes. Right? Kelvin Gastelum, big striker. Derek Brunson, Uriah Hall, Brad Tavares. So a few wrestlers in there, but for the most part, it's strikers. So that benefits his type of style, right? So I'm like, are you kind of glad that you're going to be getting these type of matchups, fights that are exciting, fights that in a good way, are good matchups for you. And he's like, yeah, 100%. I see that. And, it's not like I'm scared of wrestlers. I'll fight a wrestler. I don't care. But yeah, it is nice to face strikers. And there are good matchups for me. So looking at featherweight right now, and I know I'm going to rant about this. This question's probably a little too long, but guys like Max Holloway, Brian Ortega, Zabit, Chan Sung Young, Yair Rodriguez, Frankie Edgar, Renato Moicano. Well, Edgar and Barbosa trained together, right? If I'm not mistaken. Yes. So I don't think they'd fight each other. But, there are some good matchups for him there, better than 55. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm curious to see how he looks at 145. We'll see. I'm not saying it's a bad move. I'm not saying it's a good move. I'm kind of just like, hey, we'll see. Jose Aldo's move to bantamweight kind of shut me up. So I'm never going to be as critical. Let's wait and see what happens. Let's see. All right. So we got 10 minutes left. I know I went a long rant on that question. Uncle DMMA, Diego did nothing wrong. That is 100% true. You might criticize him for what he did, but he didn't do anything wrong. There was an illegal move done on him. It's up to him if he wants to continue or not. And there's a lot of money on the line, bro. So I'm not blaming him. Costa MMA, I challenge you, Danny. Find 5 positive things from Diego's fight last night. He looked in shape. He took damage and took it well. We know he can do the rolling thunder. He had a nice peacock stance, right? A nice little rooster thing going on in the very beginning. That's 4. And he left with a win and got his win bonus. So there you go. 5 positive things about Diego's fight last night. Oh, right below it, Uncle D kind of said the same shit. He didn't die. Yeah, he said something similar. What do you think of Macy Chasson? I believe that's how you pronounce her last name. Also, UFC Rio Rancho fighter. Can we see her top 5 bantamweight in the future? Yeah, she won the Ultimate Fighter, right? If I'm not mistaken, she's Ultimate Fighter champ. So that's good. That's a tough thing to do. And I believe is she undefeated in the UFC? Let me see. No, she lost to Lena Landsberg. That's right. Yeah. But she won the Ultimate Fighter and had 2 straight wins of Regina Mazzani and then Sarah Morash, and then Sarah Moraes, and then lost to Lena Landsberg and now beat Shayna Young. I thought there was some issues with her technique a little bit. I thought he was exerting too much energy in some positions that she shouldn't have, particularly locking up with Young and kind of letting Young rest on top of her, kind of in like the north south, like kind of like in the takedown position, but kind of standing up. But nonetheless, she's a force to be reckoned with at that weight class. She's very physically, strong woman, very strong. She's tough, which those 2 things alone can get you very far. And on top of that, she's got some good ground skills, good chin on her, tough, and some good striking as well. So yeah, I mean, she's definitely not a finished product. How old is she? She's 28, so still fairly young. And I bet she's gonna keep improving. Will she be would you say a top 3, top 5 bantamweight? Time will tell, but could be. Yeah, she's a good fighter for sure. Let's see. Jan has won last 7 of 8. Yeah, it's impressive. That deserves the title shot. He's deserving of a shot, man. He's deserving of a shot. Which fighter in each weight class do you like in a street fight? I would go Cejudo, Jan, Zombie, Tony, Gamebred, Romero, Jones, and Ngannou. So street fight has no breaks. So you got no referee stand-ups. You got no rounds unless, police steps in there and stops the fight. But let's assume that's not the case, right? It's just street fight. It's over till it's over. Duffy Gamebred, I mean, that guy's background is street fighting, so he knows a thing or two about fighting in the streets. Definitely him at 170. Tony Ferguson, 100%. Although Khabib wouldn't be a bad choice because that dude does not get tired. And he'll take your ass down and slam you on the concrete. Oh, shit. That'd be horrible. Zombie is a good option as well. I mean, any UFC fighter would do wonders in a street fight. So your list is fine. Heavyweight and Ngannou, yeah, you can't go wrong with him. But yeah, the Diaz brothers are good street fighters too. Let's see. Who else? What is one fight you'd like to have seen from UFC 1 to 9? So I don't know all the fights that happened from UFC 1 to 9. I kind of have a vague memory of what I used to watch. Um, but really, any Hoist Gracie one, I think any Hoist Gracie was always like super impressive. Just watching him take on like the Hoist Gracie chemo one would have been fun. Just watching him take on like dudes that are that have 100 pounds on him and just using jujitsu and technique to win those fights. Obviously, toughness as well. But yeah, no, those would have been fine. I'll tell you one I wouldn't like to see. Who there was one fight that there was like this karate dude that used to wear like a black tank top and like black sweatpants. He fought this Asian dude that was in I think he was in movies, if I'm not mistaken. He was an actor, and he used to wear like the speedos, like the red speedos, real tight. And what was the position? I think it was in a crucifix or something like that. And the dude just starts dropping elbows on his groin, like shots to the dick, nonstop, and you can tell he's like kind of hanging in there. But then the fight was called off. I believe he might have tapped or he might have gone out or something. But yeah, that looked so painful, man. I never want to see that again. Yo, UFC 1 through 9 was wild. It was crazy. Let's see. Any more questions? We're getting to 56 minutes, so probably tackle a couple more and dip out. Let's see. Did Usman fail a drug test? So I saw a fake MMA junkie account. First of all, I believe the at name was at Sober Connor, so it was like the worst fake thing ever. But it did have our logo and it did have MMA junkie as the name, and they did use kind of like the same style that we used to tweet. Obviously, there wasn't a real link; they just took you to MMAJunkie.com and saying that Usman failed from I don't even know what he failed, but that is fake. That is BS. Don't retweet that. I saw someone that I follow retweet it, which kind of annoyed me a little bit, but didn't say anything. I mean, I'm sure it was a mistake, but don't spread misinformation. Read things carefully before you share them. And yeah, that's all I got to say about that. But yeah, it's fake. It's not true. Mm, what's next for Darren Till? Her Manson? Look, I've always said Darren Till, he's so young and 185 is so new for him. I'd like to see him get like a nice little build up. I suggested a fight with Uriah Hall, but Uriah Hall is fighting Jacare, if I'm not mistaken. But I have a feeling they're just gonna rush Darren Till because he can talk shit on the mic. He's good looking. He's got an exciting style. He's a very marketable dude, right? He's from Liverpool. He's got a whole city behind him, a whole country as well. And I just feel like they're just gonna give him big fights just in hopes that he can get a win or two that's big and then cash in on another Sanya Till fight, which would be huge. I don't like that. I think he should, I think he's in this for the long run. I can see him having a long career. So fight like you're planning to fight for a long time, right? So don't take all these tough matches. But he's also a guy that likes challenges. So who am I to say, that's just my standpoint. So I'm guessing he'll get like a top guy, but look, wouldn't hate seeing him against Chris Weidman. I don't know. I'd like to see him versus some not lower tier guys, but some guys that are top 15, top 10. I don't want to see him against any top 5 fighters. I don't like the Jared Cannonier fight. But yeah, if that's the route they go, that's the route they go. He beat Kelvin Gastelum, who's super legit. And I was a little skeptical about that matchmaking, but it worked out. So, man, I don't know. Thoughts on Ray is getting 15 on pound for pound. Is that true? Let me pull up the rankings. Is he in the pound for pound rankings? Get the fuck out. Where's the pound for pound rankings? Oh shit. Dominic Reyes is a top 15 pound for pound fighter. That pound for pound. I think the UFC rankings for the most part are kind of BS. But generally, the divisional rankings they might not be 100% on point, but I know they get a lot of criticism, but they kind of give you a good perspective of who's at the top. I think the top 15 deserve to be in the top 15. Like you might disagree on the configuration of things, but for the most part, the 15 fighters that are on the list are usually the best 15 fighters of the division for the most part. For the most part. Um, and they kind of get it a little bit right, not 100%. But again, it's a hard thing to do. Now the pound for pound that it's so difficult. That is, I mean, I was just asked about like what my top 5 pound for pound fighters, and I couldn't even give you the fifth one. It's just so difficult. It's just so difficult. I think, because what do you determine pound for pound for? Like, do you want to just analyze skill? Then you really have to have like an astute mind and a sharp eye to identify who's doing the most perfect technique, who is the most complete fighter, who has the most skills, right? Or Habib Nurmagomedov is ranked number 2 in the pound for pound, and he's kind of one dimensional a little bit. Don't get me wrong; he's got good striking, he's got some power. Connor, had a taste of that. But the dude's so good in one area that he can achieve so much. So it's like, I mean, it's a weird thing to uh to gauge. So I don't I don't know if Dom Reyes would qualify as a top 15 fighter pound for pound. Um, Ideally, right? I think you would go with the top 3 of every weight class, right? That would even go longer because there's more than 5 weight classes per in the UFC. So it'd be like what the top 2, the champion and the number 1 contender should be within that list, right? That would make the most sense, and that's clearly not the case here, or kind of is maybe with Reyes, right? But yeah, it's just a difficult thing. Yeah, maybe Reyes is a top 15 fighter pound for pound. Yeah, maybe I don't know. It's kind of crazy though. I mean, I'd like to believe that you need to prove yourself a little bit. Like, yeah, you can look very skilled and display like amazing technique, but it's like, all right, what can that do for you? How much achievement do you have, right? Reyes, on this case, he's still obviously very young in his MMA career, and he's achieved a good amount. Don't get me wrong, but he hasn't like won a belt and then defended it for a long time. I think that's very differently. So yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. The pound for pound discussion is always a difficult one. Yeah. All right. Connor tweet Vigo 2.0 asks Connor tweeted about fighting Sanchez. Thoughts? I don't know if you guys remember, that was actually a thing years ago. I believe Diego Sanchez years ago he fought Ricardo Lamas in a UFC Mexico card. That was at 145, and I think he broke some sort of record because he fought at 185, 170, 155, and 145. So 4 weight classes. He didn't have success. He did look good in the fight against Lamas, but Lamas was really good back then. I mean, he's still good, but he was on top of his game then and just leg kicked the shit out of him and won the fight. But I remember, at the time Conor was rising through the ranks, and there was actually talks of Sanchez versus Conor McGregor. Obviously, since a lot has happened and their careers have taken different routes, so I think that is a silly tweet. By no means you should book that fight, and it makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. I don't know why he would do that. I think it was just a troll job from his part, to be honest. I don't know. But yeah, that was kind of funny. All right, I'll tackle this one because it's related to UFC Rio Rancho, and technically this is a Rio Rancho recap, right? But it kind of turned into a live Q&A, but I'll be doing one maybe like Tuesday or something like that. So hold your thoughts, hold your questions for then. I'm sure we'll get new headlines then and some more news. ELHP45 asks thoughts on Ray Borg and his future now that he's missed weight 4 times. So Ray Borg missed weight for his bout against this Brazilian dude. What's his name again? Rogério Bontorin. So he missed weight. He came in at 128. missed weight. They gave him an hour to cut more weight, came back, weighted the same, couldn't lose any more weight. And he fought Hojedo, clearly the better grappler, just out wrestled his way to a dominant decision, won 30-27 on two scorecards and 30-25 on the other. I think I might have had it 30-26, but yeah, it was, just to say, it was a dominant performance. He looked good. However, he's missed weight 3 times to make flyweight and once to make bantamweight. And he looks like a big dude. I'd like to see him fight at 135. I think, clearly he's having a tough time making the weight. That's never a good look on his career, and it kind of taints his wins, man, because he really did look good. He put on a dominant performance. Like that was, that was a skilled fighter right there. That was a world-class performance. He looked good, and yeah, and but then the biggest talk. I mean, we're addressing it right now. He missed weight for that fight, so it kind of taints his performance. And he's a good fighter. He's a former title challenger, so I'd like to see him fight at 135. I think it's a healthier weight. I don't think he'll be undersized. I mean, he fought Casey Kenny. I think he might have won that fight, but he still lost it. I think that might have been a controversial decision from what I remember. And by no means did I, or from what I remember, by no means was I watching that fight and going, holy snap, like, Ray Borg's small, this guy's got size on him. I don't remember thinking that. So, and other flyweights have moved up and have success, especially wrestlers, Henry Cejudo, right? But I mean, he's gotten really good at striking too. But I'd like to see him at 135. Stop missing weight. It'll alleviate. Although he's missed weight before at that weight class, it'll help him not missing weight and being on point on the scale. And I don't think he'll be at a big disadvantage size wise. So fight at 135. But he's convinced, and this was so weird. And I wrote an article about this from the scrum that he did, with the media backstage. He insists on sticking to 125. He believes there has to be a better method for him, a weight cutting method for him to get down to 125. Look, how old is he? He's young, man. He's 26. It's crazy. And he feels like a veteran, former title challenger and just 26 years old. Look, he's fought 17 times. He's been fighting in the UFC since 2014. And you're still trying to figure out a good method to cut down to 125. I think that might mean that there is no good method, or there isn't a good enough method for to get him down to that weight. Has he made weight before? Yes, but it's been inconsistent. So I'd like to see him fight at bantamweight, and I think he's a very skilled fighter. I know he mentioned he was a little bit afraid of getting cut because of so much missing weight, but I hope the UFC doesn't cut him, because again, he's a skilled fighter, so he belongs where in the UFC. He's definitely a UFC caliber fighter. Fuck it, fight at 35, man. But again, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I don't know. I don't know if he will. Also, the UFC might just force him to. We've seen that with cases, right? John Lineker. I mean, he's like, yo, homie, you keep missing weight at 125. Like, if you keep winning, we one day want you to fight for the title, but we can't trust you if you keep missing weight. So step up. And he did. There's a few cases like that. So I'd like to see him at 135. Yeah, to answer your question. And what's his future? I don't know, but hopefully he stays with the UFC at bantamweight. But we'll see. All right, that does it. I'm an hour in. I know there's a couple more questions, but for some reason, I don't know if you guys caught it, but like, my mouth is very dry for some reason. I feel like I was mispronouncing some stuff. It's weird. I've drank a lot of water today, so I don't know what the deal is. I have no idea. Maybe the coffee. I've had a good amount of coffee today. I don't know. Gary Freeman says it's the edibles. No, I'm not on edibles. No. I would have like an anxiety attack if I were to do like one of these. No, that'd be a bad decision. But anyways, yeah, I appreciate everybody that tuned in. Thank you so much for tuning into this live stream. I recently did an interview with Demetrius Johnson video, so I encourage you to check that out. It's on my YouTube channel. I edited it on my interviews playlist. I did it obviously for MMAJunkie.com, and I believe I should have one coming up with Javier Mendez. That was a good interview. I really enjoyed talking to him. So stay tuned to that. Also, I'll be doing a live Q&A during the week, this upcoming week. So stay tuned to that. So subscribe to this channel. Give this video a thumbs up. Tell your friends about it. Spread the word about this live chat that I've been doing. And I appreciate everybody that tuned in, also that submitted questions on Twitter and on the live chat itself. And yeah, that's all I got to say. And also, I know I said this when I came back from vacation and I started, doing the YouTube thing. This whole experience will improve. I know some people have asked me about, wanting this to be in audio form so they can listen to podcasts. I listen to podcasts all the time. I'm on the train, I'm on the street. So, I know how convenient that is, but it's money. You have to pay, a monthly fee to have something up, right? And a few other things, but just know that I'm working to improve this. There's a few things in play and a few moving pieces that I gotta kind of address. But just hang in there. Just know that in the near future, this whole experience will improve. And I hope you guys like it. So yeah, stay tuned. All right, and have a good rest of your Sunday. And that's that. Later.